Well, we'll see how long this takes. My computer is living on borrowed time, and fingers crossed it'll live a little longer. Uh, it's being held together by a binder clip. The keyboard fell, and I'm holding it together with binder clips. And I need to find a couple of mouse pads because the binder clip is scratching on my furniture. And I've got like 10 mouse pads. I just can't find them. You know, when you're looking for something, you can't find it. But when you're not looking for it, you find them all. Yes, ma'am. So I usually don't do very, very short series. I like to do a longer series. But I got so dragged into this that I immediately went and got the other 3 books in the series. So I'm doing them bing, bing, bing. So anyways, it's nice to meet you. This is the D. Louise book series. My name is Christina, KLUG. This is where we read books and talk about books. No special effects going on here. It's the old what you see is what you get. If you were a Roots Web member, the websites were done on a what you see is what you get. It was like WY something. It was an abbreviation, but it meant what you see is what you get when you were editing. But anyways, don't forget to check out Star Trek Next Generation recaps on Fridays. Also the If Then. If you like this author, then maybe you like that author. Also on Fridays, and Flashback Mondays, where we do over 40 different, well, at least 25 to 30 different books. Mysteries, contemporary romance, inspirational, historical romance, paranormals, harlequins, the whole 9 yards. But anyways, like I said, we are doing the Map Skin series. This is book 2 by Stephen Lawhead. And I sent him an email. I don't know if he'll respond. You're told not to expect a response. I mean, and that's okay. But I just wanted, I have one criticism for the series, and it's just me. You know, everybody else could be just fine with it, but it's just me. I would like the date in the beginning of each chapter, even if it's just the year, just to know when the people are, because they're jumping ley lines, fey lines, and we will discuss that with Kim Harrison, and we will also discuss that with Karen Marie Money, and maybe a little bit with Mary Gentry with Laura K. Hamilton. But so they're jumping time, they're going through time, and it would be helpful to know when each character is in the time lane. Some of them are before others, some of them are after others, some of them are in the 1600s, some of them 1800s, and they're jumping back and forth, and every character is in a different time frame, and it would be helpful just for me, just from my own point of view, my own mental thing, if I could tell when each character was, when the bad guys are, when the good guys are. Follow it. And this is a really they're looking for a couple of different items, a couple of different treasure items. And it's hard to definitely say. The book 1 was finding they're looking for a map, and the map has been segregated into 4 parts. And so we found the first part, or supposedly the first part in the first book. Not really, but they found a replicate of the first part. And we're going to do the second part here, and then the third part here, and the fourth part here. I've got these numbered. So, but this second part, now that we've gotten to know the characters, and it's I really like the information in the beginning of the book. We're following the stories or the timelines, and this is another reason why I want the times in the book. We're following the bad guy, technically the bad guy, Burley, and then we're WILHELMINA, who is Kit's girlfriend from let's say the 20th century. And Giles is the great grandfather's servant from the 1800s, and I'm not sure the others ships around Mina and Lena, the Chinese lady, and Arthur Flinders, the one of the original guys with the map, and it's hard. It would be better for me if I knew the timeline, but those are the people you're following. You're following Kit, and then Mina and Giles, and sometimes Mina and Giles and Kit are together, sometimes they're not. Then there's Miss Havers. She gets in the situation too, and I just wanted to. I really enjoy the catch up on. I love the list. I love it when there's lists, and so that I didn't have to make a chart, because I usually, when I start a series, I'll make a spreadsheet of who everybody is. So if I need to know who's related to who and what, like stuff like that, and who's an important character to pay attention to, because sometimes I'll have some authors that'll throw 20 or 30 characters. I had one author, I forget which one it was. It wasn't too long ago. And I was like, oh my God, this is like 50 people at me in the first chapter. And most of those people were extraneous, just meet and greet type situation. But it helped to know. So when I read the second and third books in the series, I knew these were my core 10, and anybody else was just visitors or looking for the bad guy or stuff like that, or extraneous, or maybe in addition to the cast. But that it was good to know who the people are, and it helps because with Arthur Flinders Petrie, we don't see him much, but he begat Benedict, who begat Charles, who begat Douglas. So let me just go through this. Be prepared. If I should have said this in the beginning, but lots and lots and lots and lots of spoilers. I've done over almost 1,000 videos at this juncture, and I'm up to 114 books for the year so far. And I give spoilers. I share the books with you up the yin yang. I share everything. Now, if it's a murder mystery, I don't reveal the actual murderer, but I will reveal the entire characterization of the book. And I got into a thing on Facebook one day, and it got so bad that I had to unsubscribe the page because the people were bullying me up terrible. The book was over 40 years old, and because I had revealed that that I was not going to pursue the series, I spent months gathering all the books up because I like to do that so they have them all so I can binge read. And I should not have done that. I should have read the first one or two books and then decided if to pursue it. And I read the first book, and the hero committed premeditated murder at the end. Yes, he killed the bad guy, but it was still premeditated murder, and I don't want my hero doing that. So that was the end of that. So I have to get rid of all those books. I spent all that money on all those books and have to just, nope. So anyways, in my travels, I discovered the skin map and a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, I've got to follow this through. I got to see where this is going. I got to follow this gravy train to the end, see what happens. And it's an interesting story. So we're following, like I said, Burley, who's the bad guy, and we're getting some of his origins, how he started, how his story began. But anyway, in the beginning, I like that the author catches you up or summarizes book one. Our story thus far concerned an unemployed but agreeable young fellow named Cosmo Christopher Livingstone, who prefers to go by the name of Kit. He is related by birth to an old gentleman named Cosmo, who is in fact his long-lost great-grandfather. Long lost in that, owing to circumstances arising from the phenomenon known as lay travel, he disappeared more than 100 years or so ago while on a routine visit to local shops. Cosmo's return was greeted by Kit with disbelief, astonishment, and chagrin. The older's relation insistence that Kit should accompany him on a quest of great significance was rebuffed, and after he told him no the first time, and then he goes to his girlfriend's house and she wants to know why it took him over 8 hours to show up for their date. He tells her. She doesn't believe him. After some discussion, she goes with him. He proves that the ley lines are there. Unfortunately, at the split second they jump, they get separated and they each go separate ways. So she ended up in a different time frame than him. Whenever I do videos, she's gotta go off. Bing, 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 bing. Oh, only 5. If you want to know her identity, see my New Year's Eve fortune video. We did all of Johnny Devanovich last year. I'm a series person. I do series. Those are all series up there. Every last one of them is a series. And that's my paranormal section. I've got mystery over there, because the authors had 30 or more books and they just didn't fit here. So they've each got their own section. And then I've got a Regency section over there, and biography is upstairs. Sorry, we got sidetracked. And founded once more by Cosmos, who's introduced him to a stalwart colleague by the name of Sir Henry Freyeth. Together, the three of them set out to find Wilhelmina and return her to a proper place and time. Now, Wilhelmina ended up in her own time, and she met Etzel, a baker from Rosenbaum who was traveling to Bohemia to seek his fortune. And she introduced him and his surrounding community to coffee. She got coffee beans imported, and they set up a little coffee shop with pastries and coffee, the first ever of its kind in this particular time period in history. And she's making a fortune, and she's even impressed the king, who becomes addicted to the caffeine and the coffee. And now she's pursuing hot chocolate. Whereas England did hot chocolate first, I think. And tea was always around. Then they meet Lady Faith, Sir Henry's niece, and she helps them with the ley lines. And sometimes she's a good person, sometimes she's a bad. She has her moments of switching back and forth. And then we meet Arthur Flinders Petrie, an intrepid soul who made countless trips to other worlds and meticulously recorded his discoveries on a map, so that he could always find his way home again, and so that he could never be separated from his map. He had it tattooed on his torso in the form of coded symbols. Not the most original plan, of course, but highly effective and productive too, in that it allowed him to meet and marry his Chinese tattoo artist's charming daughter, Zhen Li. Arthur shared with his new wife his passion for exploration, introducing her to the arcane secrets of lake travel. On one such trip, they traveled to Egypt, struck in the form of the Nile River, and stricken Ely succumbed and died, but not before giving birth to his child. And Flynn Petrie has a nemesis. Archie, ARCHELAEUS, it's Archie, I just call him Archie, but really, most of the book we just call him Burley, the Earl of Sutherland, an unscrupulous dastard who was wholly obsessed with possessing the map and learning its secrets, and his nefarious crew. And his nefarious crew, every once in a while, they show up, and it would be nice to know what time frame they are in. Out of all the different peeps, it would be nice to know their time frame, to know where they are in relation to all our good guys. So, chapter 1, Douglas Flinders Petrie talks with Silas Cumberbatch, the landlord who sent to work for Douglas's dad as a footman, and he goes to the British Museum. And this is not modern day. See, that's my point. I would like to know what time frame it is. I believe it's probably in the 1800s at some point. He uses a ladder to break into the museum, and there's no alarms of any kind. There's just guards that walk around. And there's no mention of electricity, although he does have a sandwich, so it's late enough for the sandwich to have been invented. So that I would like to know when this particular time period is, because we are not told. But him and his Snipe is his assistant servant, helps him get the book. So he gets this book that he has been wanting to obtain. And then Kit, in the last book, if we read it, it ended on a little bit of a cliffhanger, sort of, kind of, when Kit is stuck in a pyramid, and his uncle and his associate have passed away, and Kit is in the tomb with with Giles, and WILHELMINA shows up and rescues them, and she gives him instructions. I'm gonna do this, and you're gonna go this way, and you and Giles are going to go, and this is what you're going to do and how you're going to get there. So he does that, and while he does that, she goes off on a secret mission of her own. And then we go back to, because each chapter is by a different character's point of view. So we do a lot of jumping back and forth between characters' point of view and the time frame. See, this is another reason why I wanted to know when these people were, so I could follow the story a little better. And you don't get that. And that was my big pet peeve with the book. I would have liked a little bit of a time frame, or chronology, to know when these people are in relation to the story. So we do get a couple of times. We get times. Giles and WILHELMINA jump to 1819, and they're going to go talk to Thomas Young, who proves to be a very, very important part of the story. And she goes to his house, and she tells him about the tomb of Anon, the high priest of Ammon. So she talks to him, and Kit, I'm not sure when Kit goes. He's traveling with Kefir. I think he's in. He's either in 1235 or 1822. I think it's 1822. And then we have Arthur and Exilin with the high priest of Amun. They're with him, so they're way before 1200, maybe. I don't know the time frame. So then we get to meet or see Archie's beginnings with his mom and how he came. And Archie is Lord Burleigh eventually. He ends up gathering, because of his knowledge, he ends up traveling around and gaining artifacts and stuff like that, and gains some wealth. So I don't think the title is a real English title. I think he made it up. And he tells people, because he's never in England during that appropriate time period. But we're not really told whether it's a real title or not. He's just busy traveling around, and he tells everybody that's his name, and everybody believes him because he's everywhere but England. He's in Egypt and different time frames in Scotland and Edinburgh and Prague. So no one really knows. And it's not really said whether it's real or not. But we get his beginnings in this book, and it's obvious that he's really not. It doesn't come out and say it, and we don't know how he takes the title yet. That hasn't come into play yet. But we're getting his backstory, and that's good. And then we have some the Lord Burleigh's guys that are supposed to be watching the pyramid go to check on them the next day, and they're supposed to be starving Kit and his cohorts. They have no food or water. They're locked in the pyramid. They're supposed to be suffering, and they're supposed to be able to get information out of them for trading water. And when the bad guys go to check on them, they discover that they have escaped. So they all believe that Kit and his cohorts are deceased until much later in the book. And then we have this scene, probably in his original timeline. I'm not exactly sure because it doesn't really specifically say, but I think it's in his time frame. Lord Burleigh, Archie, meets Lady Haven Fayeth and Lord Edward Fayeth, and I think he wanted to meet Lord Fayeth's brother Henry, the scientist. He wanted to talk to him, and he ends up with the wrong Fayeth, but I think he eventually does meet Henry at some point. And then Mina learns in her time period back in Prague that Lord Burleigh, because he's jumping the ley lines and he's going back and forth, and that's why it would be really good for me to know what the time frame is, because then we would know, because he goes back and he's having this guy in 1200 or 6, so you're not really sure what year it is in Prague. I think it said it in the first book in the 1600s. He's having this guy make this device that helps him locate ley lines, like a compass type situation. And when Mina learns out, and the guy's a friend of Mina's like, make me one too. So the guy makes her one, and that's how she's able to do all that traveling. Come here. You like my book? So then we get some more of Archibald's backstory and how his caretaker, guardian, died, and when his guardian died, I guess the will didn't provide for him, but he had provided for himself, and this is when he starts his adventure. And then we go back to see how Benedict is born. Okay, he's born in that tomb back in Egypt. So you get some of his backstory there. Then Wilhelmina had given him instructions when they split up earlier in the book. Like I said, she told him to go there, and she was going there. So she's been in the future. So he goes to the hotel that she told him to go to, and he goes there and talks to the guy, and the guy wants a couple of not dinos, but whatever the coin is in this juncture. And Kit's like, I've got nothing. So the guy ends up giving him the package, and the package has instructions that he is not to open it or peek or anything, and he's to go to this coordinates, and he is to give this package to Dr. Young. So he goes to this coordinates and gives the package to Dr. Young. In the meantime, Mina goes back to work with Etzel in her bakery. And she finds out he's getting a secondary device. And Kit finally meets up with Dr. Young, and they discuss Mina. Well, what did Wilhelmina tell you about all this? I mean, how did she explain it? Well, sighed Thomas, she said the most outrageous thing I ever heard uttered from a rational human being. She told me in no uncertain terms that she was a traveler from another dimension who had come to enlist my aid in helping her locate a very valuable artifact, which she believed to be buried somewhere in Egypt. Wilhelmina can be very forceful, Kit says. I thought her demented, of course, replied the physician. In my professional practice, I occasionally encounter people suffering from various forms of delusion and insanity. However, those were merely her introductory remarks. I offered her refreshment and sought to keep her talking so that I might observe her better and improve my diagnosis of her particular hysteria. He smiled suddenly. That was where she captured me, the dear girl. The more she talked, lucidly, calmly, with animation, intelligence, and fever, but entirely lacking of any more explicit signs of mental aberration, the more fascinated I became. In short, I allowed her to spin me such a splendid, impossible tale that I confess I was wholly taken in by the audacity of her creative invention. Thomas raised a finger in his own defense. Not that I did not argue. I put forth numerous and vigorous objections, which she could not entirely answer, but she did back down from her assertions. In the end, we made a bargain. In exchange for my help, she provided me with undeniable proof that her claims were genuine. So they talk some more, and then he gives Thomas Young the package that Wilhelmina had left for Kit to give to Thomas Young to prove all of which she has said is true. And in the package was a coin with Queen Elizabeth on it as Elizabeth is a child in this particular time frame. So that tells us a little bit of when this is. And newspaper clippings and the book and the postage stamp. He said, "You see, King George sits on the throne of England at the moment. Princess Victoria is a mere child and not even in direct line of succession. Apparently she is to become queen with her image on every coin. Extraordinary. But the book is the thing that removes all doubt. The book has been in my mind for quite some time. As president of the Royal Society, I've been collecting my papers and organizing them, of course, for the last several years, but I have not submitted them to be published as they are nowhere near ready yet, and more remains to be done." And then he believes Kit and his story, and they head out to the pyramid, and Kit tells him about he was looking for the map. And let me see if I did the page correctly. The artifact she believed to be found in a particular tomb of which she had certain knowledge. She wanted me to organize excavation of said tomb, an experience she suggested that would prove more invaluable to my ongoing work. He glanced at Kit for confirmation. She also said, "You would be my guide. I'm to take you to know the location of the tomb of which she spoke. I'm pretty sure I can find it again." So they start their journey. And then we get a little bit of Archie or Lord Burleigh's interaction with Lady Haven Faith, and apparently they date for some time, and then he disappears, probably jumping ley lines, and she was looking forward to marriage. But she knows that Burleigh was looking to depart, so she lets him depart. And I missed it. I must have wrote down the wrong page. I'm sorry. But as for the rest, abandoning Kit and Giles, well, regrettable as that may be, it had been a simple expediency and not be helped. In the dreadful tragic situation made prisoners had entombed with poor dead Cosmo and her dying Uncle Henry. Oh, this was Lady Haven, but she helps them out later. So she does come to the and she starts accompanying Burleigh on his trips. But I can't find the page that I was talking about, so let's just go on. And I'm not exactly sure where they end up, because I'm sitting here going, well, they meet the Danish, so I'm thinking, is it Denmark or is it Norway? But they say it's not Norway, so I'm a little confused. Kit and Dr. Young get a little closer, and he takes them to find the tomb, and he finds the map, and we later experience the person who put it there. That was a revelation at the end of the book, so that's something interesting to look forward to. And then we catch up with Douglas Flanders. Now, remember, he was in the beginning of the book, and you don't see him for a long time. See, that's why I really want a time frame so I can follow it better, because the author is, every chapter is like a different person, and you're trying to follow the storyline in your head of all these different people. And all of a sudden, we hadn't seen Douglas since the first chapter when he stole this book. And it's this book that he takes to this guy who apparently invented the language that's used for the book. And they're going to translate it. And he says it's the language of the angels. And then we get some more with Archibald. And then we catch up with Mina and Wilhelmina Wilhelmina and Kit and Giles finally end up together, and she takes them to Prague to see her coffee shop, and that's when they get separated again. And as of the end of the book, they are not reconciled. But this is the I was thinking of Lord Burleigh dates Philippa Harvey Jones, and that's who I was thinking of with Havers. I had the wrong person, the wrong female. But she said, in the belly of the young lord was a new and insatiable hunger. Knowledge, the more arcane the better, was now his consuming passion. He was not to be seen without a book in his hand, and when he wasn't reading, he was making notes in one of the growing succession of journals which he kept under lock and key in his desk. The ballroom of his spacious mansion was gutted by an army of carpenters, and they lined the walls with bookshelves. The entire room is bookshelves. And although he still remained a nominal presence in the antiquities trade, the Earl of Sutherland was more likely now to be seen at a lecture of the Royal Society than on the auction floors of Sotheby's or Christie's. When at last Philippa realized that anything she said or did could have no effect on her paramour's new obsession, the young woman, who was not accustomed to suffer any rival to her affection, slowly withdrew. And Archibald is still a bachelor. So that's why we know he's there. And we end the book a little bit of a cliffhanger. I'm not exactly sure where Kit ends up. Him and Wilhelmina and Giles jump to her time frame where she is in Prague and her bakery, and that's when Burleigh shows up and his men show up and they spot Kit and Giles and realize that Kit and Giles did not die in the tomb in the pyramid as they previously thought. And then Kit goes someplace, and I'm not exactly sure where he goes. What's her name? Aul. I forget her first name. It's Auel. You can look it up. Clan of the Cave Bears. I'm in Valley of the Horses, and there's like 6 or 7 books in that series. And I'm like, is he in that time frame? Did he go back to the Stone Age or the Dinosaur Age? Because there's some references to dinosaurs. And that's where this House of Bones is being built. And this guy does a meditation thing, and Kit falls. And it was a really confusing part of the story. So hopefully in book 3, I have not looked at it yet. Hopefully there'll be a little bit of an explanation in the beginning of the book, and we will get to that in the next video. So I don't want to jump ahead, although I do like spoilers, as you can tell. But there was an interesting note from the author in the back of the book, and I'm going to leave you because you're going to have to read it for yourself, and we're actually going to have to start the 3rd book before we understand the ending of this one. It's cliffhangery because, like I said, they're putting all the pieces together, and the whole book won't be finished until the book 4. But Stephen says that Thomas Young, 1773 to 1829, who was a significant role in his story, was one of the world's most great polymaths. Born in the tiny village of Milverton in Somerset, England, he was an infant prodigy, having learned to read by the age of 2. So he is a true person in this story, and never confirmed to any singular endeavor, Dr. Young's insatiable curiosity to other, even more exotic pursuits, including for my story, archaeology, especially deciphering the Egyptian hieroglyphics. No one at the time could read the ancient pictorial rebus scripts, but aided by the discovery of the Rosetta Zone in 1799, Young, not the Frenchman Napoleon, and most history texts have it, cracked the code and defined the basic rules of translation. So it's good. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope I didn't spoil too much of it. I'm looking forward to some of the explanation in the next book. And if you could please like and subscribe, I'd appreciate it. I'm floating out here in Neverland one day. My goal, hopefully by Christmas, is to reach the 1,000 mark. I'm not sure it'll get that far. But don't forget to please watch Star Trek recaps on Friday, Friday If Then. If you like this author, then maybe you like that author. And Flashback Mondays. I really enjoy Flashback Mondays in my Romantic Times book review magazine. And my daily book reviews. We're doing this. We're doing Black Dagger Brotherhood back there, and Victoria Thompson's Gilded Age series with Sarah Brent and Frank Malloy. And that's why we are learning sign language, because this is before, and this is that's before, because and understand and to learn slowly sign language. So please have a good day. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you.